listening to the Cozy Chaos Zone. I am your host, House of Dub. Stay cozy and embrace chaos.
Welcome to the Cozy Chaos Zone. I am your host, House of Dub. In regards to all things cozy, both of my dogs are sleeping and resting easy after a very nice walkie. In regards to all things chaos, I had a poop poll in my Discord channel. So the poop poll is, when I take the dogs for a walk, you can vote on how many times you think they're going to poop. And we had 5 people vote today. The winner was whoever voted for 2 poops. There were 2 poops. How chaotic is that? You never know how many numbers it's going to be. It's like the epitome of chaos. We are going to highlight a song, shine a spotlight on an artist. That song is Athens by the composer Reality Check. And we are super happy because we actually have Reality Check with us here today to talk all about the song. All right, we are here with Reality Check. Reality Check, you submitted your song to the Cozy Chaos Zone, and I want to know about it.
I'm here to tell you about it. What do you want to know?
All right, let's start off with what is the song?
Athens is I would describe it as alt R&B and EDM, kind of like a fusion of the two. I have a lot of trouble placing a genre on my music lately, but that's what I would go with.
Okay. Where did the inspiration for it come from?
Well, it kind of, to answer that question, it kind of comes in with the whole album. The whole album that this is on, which will be out on Saturday, called Purity, it kind of came about when I overheard somebody. I live in Texas, and I overheard somebody I was with at a restaurant talking about Corinth, Texas. There's a city called Corinth in Texas, and that got me thinking of another city that I'd passed through named Athens. And it kind of got me thinking of just how many cities in Texas had like the same name as like Greek cities, you know? And that sort of got me going on this Greek theme. And I started looking into Greek mythology, and I'm no expert at Greek mythology, you know, like I have a very surface level knowledge of it that I learned mostly while researching for this album and the songs I was doing. And it's called Athens because of that. And all the songs on the album have a Greek word as the title, and they reference some Greek mythology within them. And it's not necessarily, it doesn't necessarily have continuity in that way, but it uses those as a metaphor to tell a different story that it does have continuity through. So, if that makes any sense at all. It's really weird.
I think it makes pretty cool sense. When you were researching mythology and stuff like that, was there anything that really stood out to you that was of note that you think you may have held on to while you were like working on the other songs? Anything that you may have found like particularly interesting?
I mean, I found it all interesting, honestly. It's just a really cool thing to look at. Like, after doing this, I've gotten into reading recently. I've never really read a lot before, but I'm getting into it recently. And I was considering picking up like some books on Greek mythology, getting really into it. Because at the moment, I do have a pretty surface level knowledge of all of it, but I just like I love the aesthetic and the just how strange and sometimes weirdly beautiful the stories are and everything. And it kind of, the reason I get inspired by it is because my project Reality Check, it kind of has a theme throughout my discography of just kind of, I don't know, there's different words for it. You know, you can call it ethereal, you can call it dreamy, you can call it all that stuff, right? Uh, and I like kind of like these angelic kind of concepts, right? And I just thought that having an album centered around that would be really cool, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
And
no, it does make sense. It is kind of cool, and I can see how you can kind of like imagine like almost like a Greek chorus, if you will, kind of
yeah,
just laying down some absolutely angelic notes and singing some beautiful things. Because
yeah,
some of my biggest takeaways were I definitely noticed that you were like it wasn't just the song, the name of the song Athens. You were referencing all types of things in that wheelhouse. And then
yeah,
I did notice that like in terms of genre, you do kind of go all over the place. There's a lot of like R&B influence in there, I can tell.
yeah,
But then you do go in a bunch of other different directions. There's a lot of like I think glitch is the word for it.
yeah, yeah. I would use that.
Where did you pick up that?
My influences are pretty strange. Not, I don't know how in depth you want me to get with this because, I mean, when I was a little kid, when I first started getting my own music, like the first stuff I listened to was when my sister, my big sister, got me into dubstep, and I started listening to Skrillex like constantly, right?
Okay, word.
And that was like my first stuff, right? And then from there I started exploring other dubstep artists, and I settled on Virtual Riot as like my favorite. He's still one of my favorite producers ever, and he did a lot of that stuff. He had a lot of like, I think if you listen to my stuff and you listen to his stuff, it's very different, but you can find the similarities and the clear influence, you know?
All right, all
Um,
right. So would you say that like this song is something that you would want people in that who are looking for that genre of music, you want to try to like show this song to people in the into that genre, or are you trying to get people who maybe aren't as into that genre into something completely different because you have other influences as well, because you're blending more things, like you're taking little bits of it but you're also blending other things? Are you trying to fit into what inspired it initially, or are you trying to bring in new people to something that you're branching off with?
um, I would say that my music is nothing like Virtual Riot's music in the grand scheme of things, especially what he's doing lately. More, you know, just heavy like rhythm dubstep, you know. But I, there's things about his style, his melodic side of his style, his when he does like future garage and future bass and stuff like that. That's the stuff that I really take inspiration from, and the stuff that I love the most about his style. He is just very musically inclined, and he makes these beautiful things, and a lot of times they involve vocal chops, and that's kind of where I got that. I That's one of the main things I took away from that style is the vocal chops, and I sort of tried to make songs around the things I loved about his style, those melodic parts, you know, as few and far between as they were sometimes. I tried to take that and incorporate my voice, incorporate other things I liked, other artists from completely different genres. I was really into Radiohead for a while. I was really into Bon Iver. I still love these artists, but I'm not as into them at the moment, you know.
I got
But
you.
yeah,
So this is a single for off a greater album, right? Something that
yeah.
like it's like a. Was there a reason why you picked this one to be the first thing you put out there for it? Is there something like really special about this song that makes you say this is what I want people to listen to before they get the whole picture?
Um, so I've actually released two singles. The first one was Ariad, and that one was more on the ethereal, slow R&B side, and then this song is more fast-paced and a little more energetic. I wanted to sort of release a single for both sides of the album because there's not as much of the energetic stuff, but there's like 2 or 3 songs on here that are more like that, while a lot of them are more slow, like that last single. So I kind of thought it would be good to introduce the two ends of what this album's gonna be, right?
Okay, yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. And so you're saying that like some of the other songs are going to kind of go even deeper into not only like that sound, but also the mythology.
Yeah, I will say that some songs take the mythology, they do more of the mythology stuff than other ones. Ariad, it's called Ariad, and there's a reason that it's called that. But I made that song before I came up with this Greek concept. There's 2 songs on the album that I kind of made before I came up with all that. So they don't really mention anything about it, but I titled them in a way and placed them in the track list in a way that it would make sense with that context, right? And then songs like Athens, songs like Eurydice, which you will hear, have way more of that stuff and then like more mythology influence. So
now, is this like the first time you've ever really delved into any sort of mythology, like the Greek stuff? Like you've never gone into like the North stuff, or
nah.
Really? Okay, so I mean, there's a lot of mythology out there.
Yeah.
You could have albums for days.
Yeah, I could keep going, though I tend to like radically. Okay, that's not true. I was gonna say I tend to radically change my focus, but to be honest, a lot of my albums kind of have a similar theme going on, and this is the time when I feel like I really did something different, like really different, right? But I feel like I'm gonna come up with something completely different for the next one, unless something happens. I'm all over the place. I could decide to do a Nordic, Viking mythology. Like
yeah, I mean, you
stuff.
never know where the inspiration is gonna strike, and it's so weird what those things are. Like, it wasn't even exactly like Athens that made you think about it. You were thinking about some other place, but just hearing Athens made you just think about there's some really weird named places around here.
Yeah. Actually, so there's I think it's Corinth, Athens, Marathon. I feel like there's another one on the album that all have a city in Texas with the same name. And I don't know. I thought that was interesting, like just something to throw in there.
Oh yeah, it's definitely like an interesting little nugget of information.
Yeah.
So obviously the whole thing comes out on Saturday. The single is out now. It's out on Spotify. Everybody can listen to it.
Yeah.
I just want to like real briefly go into like just your production styling, your mixing, your mastering. Yeah. Like what's that whole process like for you? What was it like working on this album? Were there any songs that were done before you decided what this project was, and then you kind of like fit everything into place, or like kind of just run me through that? I like knowing about artists' production styles.
Yeah. So everything was made since December last year. Ariad was the first song I made. I want to say that I kind of made them all in order, but there was a few that I like made and then pushed them further back in the track list or whatever. But for the most part, the album kind of goes chronologically in the order I made them. It's really strange. I got really inspired by this concept, and I got on my notes on my phone, and I put Purity because I thought that was a cool name for the album, and I listed out 10 tracks, just track names, random track names that I thought were like the coolest Greek words I could find.
Okay.
And I looked at that, and I'm like, I'm gonna make this album, and I changed them. There was some on the album, the original track list that I made that aren't there anymore, and I changed the names. So it wasn't like I made that track list and I'm sticking to it, even if it doesn't make any sense. But some of them did make sense, you know. And like Ariad, I think was one I put in later. And an Ariad is a nymph in Greek mythology from like, I think it's like a nymph in the mountains, basically, is what that means. And I could go into all the reason explaining why that is, but I want to get into the production or the creation process. But I, yeah, so that's how I started with that. I had that track list, and so I started working on a song called Action. I think that was one of the second ones I made. So I wanted to, I went into it thinking of what I wanted the lyrics to be in reference to, or like using Action as inspiration. And Action, you know, was a guy who found, I cannot remember her name now, the goddess of like archery, hunting.
Athena?
No, it's one of the more popular ones. I can't think of it at the moment, but he walked into the forest, saw her bathing, and she turned him into a stag beetle. I think Greek mythology is hilarious sometimes. But it's also cool, right? It's like you can laugh at it sometimes. Because it has some absurd things that go on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But anyway, so in terms of how I made the tracks, right? I had Ariad. That was the first one I made. It was very ethereal, atmospheric, slow, moody. You know, it was dark. It was like one of the more slow, bass-driven songs I'd made. Like it has like booming bass if you listen to it on a good sound system, and it and that was one of the things that got me down the R&B route, was because I've always like liked that stuff, but I never really made a lot of it. And when I made that song and I kind of had the booming 808 kind of bass and the hi-hat, trap hi-hats, trap drums, I was thinking, you know, I think I could pull off like a mostly alt R&B album, you know. And once again, a lot of people that I've showed it to have disagreed that it is alt R&B. I don't know, man. I give up on genres, but I think that I would classify a lot of stuff on this album as alt R&B.
All right. I mean, I would definitely say like you have the voice for R&B.
Thank you.
You're applying it alternatively, so I would say it definitely fits.
Yeah. And so I went off of that, right? I was like, okay, let's do more trap drums, more 808 kind of basses. A criticism I got from my last album was that the intros tended to be too long, and it took too long to get into the meat of the track, right? And I got a lot of criticisms that I like took and applied to this album. You'll notice every track on this album almost just starts off with a beat, or, you know, it just gets right into it. And I kind of like that. I like the energy that had. Just like keep it flowing like that. You're never really bored. I try to switch things up a lot in the middle of the track too. And that's where the EDM stuff comes in, because sometimes when I get to like, you know, where you would put after like the second verse, instead of doing a chorus, I'll be like, you know what? I'm just going to do like another minute and a half of just like a drop, right? Because to me, that can sometimes be more interesting than just doing another verse chorus, right? With this style of music. And I come from listening to a lot of EDM, so I'm biased, right? But yeah, so that's where the R&B stuff came from, and I'll say that this is an important part of my production. that I should mention is everything in every track on this album, except for my kick drums, I made myself. I can't make kick drums for crap. I don't know why. But for some reason I can make everything else, right? So, I do that partially because I have like a sort of stubbornness in me where I don't want to use samples I get online. And I get that, some people think that's stupid. If you think that's stupid, that's fine. Do whatever you want to do. But I like how it makes my tracks turn out. They turn out more original. They turn out my track, right? Sounds that I've made myself.
Yeah, something more personal about it.
Yeah. Like I can go into on Athens. Would you say those sound like some pretty standard trap drums?
No.
No?
I won't. I don't think they sounded standard at all. There was definitely something. There was definitely some more crispiness in the hi-hats than I'd noticed on other tracks. I think there's something to that. I mean, a lot of what is being an independent producer, independent artist these days is like spending some time and working on your drum kit, whether that is a literal physical drum kit or just a bunch of sounds that you've been working on.
Yeah, exactly. I don't play a lot of instruments. I don't play the drums. I don't play guitar really. I mean, I can play it a little bit. I'm a pianist, but I haven't trained like sight reading classical stuff. I haven't done any of that in a long time. I would call myself a composer, a producer. That's my main title I would give myself as I sing and I produce and I compose, right?
Yeah, and you produce and you compose some bangers because I tell you, it's a really good song, and I'm looking forward to hearing this whole album.
Thank you. Yeah, the album's I would say it's a ride. It changes a lot throughout. It's kind of all over the place. I would say it's more consistent than my previous work, but it's definitely my favorite project I've made to date. So.
All right. On the Cozy Chaos Zone, we ask, questions that are like cozy and like talking about music. I also like to ask some like chaos questions too. Do you think you would win in an arm wrestling contest against Zeus?
Against Zeus?
Yeah.
Nah.
You don't think so?
Nah, he might. I don't know. He might do something crazy like turn my head into a melon and like have it hatch and like a phoenix comes out or something. Just standard Greek stuff.
I don't know. I think you can take him.
Think so?
I think so.
I mean, yeah, look at all that. Yeah.
Let's take a minute here to, if you got any plugs, if you want to make sure, there's a particular place you want people to go to listen to the album, if you want a particular place for people to go to get the most up-to-date news about where you're releasing music, where you're putting stuff out. The floor is yours.
You can find me as Reality Check on Spotify, and right now my profile picture on there is a bird, and on Instagram I am all lowercase Reality Check art _ music, and yeah, you can find me everywhere else from there. That's basically the two places I'd like to promote. And yeah, just watch out for this album on the 25th because I'm very proud of it. And I think if you like, EDM, R&B, even rap, I think you might enjoy this album.
Awesome. Awesome. Reality Check, thank you so much for taking the time. Thank you so much for bringing your song to the program. And I hope you have an awesome day.
You too, man. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you.